Hi students, welcome to lesson number 13 on relationship between social stratification and social mobility. Now the introduction. Human beings are separated into different social segments based on caste, ethnicity and race on the one hand, and social strata, status groups and social classes depending upon the individual and groups economic and political dimensions on the other hand. There are inequalities among human beings based on these characteristics such as rulers and subjects, rich and poor, elite and commoner and so on. While segmental divides are based on non-economic variables, social strata and classes are based on the economic and political positions that individuals or groups hold in the society's social structure. All of this exists despite the fact that practically all religions have existed since the beginning of time, and almost all countries' constitutions have declared equality among all people regardless of caste, creed, sex, color or religion. The objectives of this lesson is that the students will be able to understand what is stratification, what is social mobility and what is the relationship between social stratification and social mobility. Now, what is stratification? The study of social stratification encompasses a wide range of concerns, both theoretical and practical, including the social structure of society, social justice, distribution, power and privileges. All of these problems are not new. They date back to antiquity, as there has never been a society without social inequality. Perhaps the only distinction that can be discovered throughout human history is in the form of social stratification and the concepts that underpin it. Even before man obtained a communal dwelling on the earth, stratification challenges and questions have been a major source of concern. Human beings have evolved conventions and ideals that guide their interactions with others since then. They not only establish specific norms of behaviors as a result of their interactions, but they also continue to evaluate others in order to rank and place them at a given level in the social structure in terms of high and low. People's attributes are compared to those of others in society while appraising them. Social stratification refers to the practice of evaluating people and groups based on their qualities and characteristics. Property, rights over commodities and services, power or the ability to secure one's way in life even in the face of opposition and prestige or social honor, according to Tueman, are all excellent things in life that are both scarce and sought. These are the fundamentals of which the evaluation is based. What is the definition of social stratification? Social stratification is a system by which society categorizes people and ranks them in a hierarchy. If one were to consider a society to reassemble the ranks of a ladder wherein high ranks represents higher in the hierarchy, then the position an individual has in society is dependent on the factors which society deems important. These are a multitude of factors including race, gender, wealth, education, caste, etc. Those individuals whose factors align with what society deems important, that is resources, fall at the top of the social hierarchy. Social stratification is a notable trait of society which allows us to understand the hierarchical nature of society and how inequalities are passed down from one generation to the next. What is the evolutionary process of social stratification? Social stratification as an institution evolved and the technologies of production underwent basic changes. Innovations of animal husbandry and agriculture necessitated more complex technologies and settled forms of community life. These economies also began to generate economic surpluses and accumulation of wealth, either in the form of cattle or food grains. With assured food resources, population began to grow as never before, and barter and exchange or commodities began to take place on a large scale. In course of time, tools of exchange were invented which could reflect values of commodities in the growth of sections of societies who had more control on wealth and power. Not only did socialized groups evolve as a result of development of relatively complicated technologies and division of labor, but a separation between rural and urban centers also emerged over time. The complexities of social structure necessitates the creation of more complicated social control organization to oversee the emergence of new social realities. So, the institutionalized religion, strata of bureaucrats, specialized in various forms of works, culture, specialists and the governing classes, to name a few examples. At such a historical juncture, the institution of social stratification arose as a result of an evolutionary functional requirement. What are the organizing principles of social stratification? Social stratification is organized around three fundamental structuring ideas, and they are status, wealth and power, which are very important factors in one's life. In any evolutionary process, sociological investigation of numerous societies over time have revealed certain links along these principles. Even in societies without the institution of class stratification, for example, some individuals possessed higher social rank and were treated as leaders in societies such as food gathering and hunting tribes. Non-agriculturists or the shamans, as well as people with outstanding skills in limiting or any other domain of social, economic, spiritual, were given a higher status in the community. Status is the most basic principle of social stratification. In the terminology of social stratification, status refers to the order in which groups in a society are ranked in terms of honor or esteem. Honor is a qualitative trait bestowed by birth on members of a status group. Any such characteristics that is inherited at birth is assigned and cannot be earned by effort. And as a result, the principle of ascription is also known as the status principle of social stratification. Caste or caste is an excellent example of status groups in our culture. The qualities which goes to make a status groups are related more to values and beliefs, to legends and myths perpetuated in societies over a period of time than to principles which are achievable by efforts, whether economic, political or cultural. Another characteristic is the wealth. The wealth principle is the second organizing principle of social stratification. Technology advancement and a shift in the mode of production are the only ways for societies to generate wealth. Changes in the economy from hunting and gathering to settled agriculture and from an agriculture based economy to one based mostly on manufacturing and industry are examples. Such developments not only resulted in the establishment of social stratification, but they also transformed the principles of social stratification over time. Economic progress resulted in the accumulation of more wealth in society, whether in the form of food grains or cattle, metals and minerals such as silver, gold, valuable stones or money. And at this point in history, groups with greater control over economic resources and wealth, or who had more wealth, were ranked higher in society than organizations with less power or groups with little or no access to wealth, such as for example landless workers or industrial workers come under that category. Its most prominent example is social stratification based on class. The third organizing principle of social stratification is power, unlike status and wealth, which can be clearly linked with group characteristics of ranking in societies. The principle of power is a relatively diffuse attribute because it is not exclusive in character. It is always possible that a group with higher status in society or that which enjoys greater wealth also exercises more power in society. However, there is a distinction to be made between, say, the principle of privileges, which is based on a group's power to use coercive tactics to force other groups to comply to its action, values and beliefs. So, the idea of power as explored by Max Weber in his analysis of social stratification is that it empowers people or group with the ability to impose their will on others through the permissible use of coercion. In this regard, the state serves as a good example of a powerful institution. It has the legal authority to impose its wills on society's citizen, and when the validity of power exercise is broadly acknowledged by groups or when it is institutionalized in society. When power is combined with authority, it produces authority. The concept of authority can be described as legal power. When the functions or social implications of power get influenced by political processes in society, it enters the concept of social stratification, and when the state begins to exert an overbearing or direct influence on social stratification principles, a good illustration of this is the government's policy of positive discrimination or reservation of jobs, political posts and admissions to educational institutions in favor of caste and tribes presently designated as scheduled or other backward groups in our country. Now, what is social mobility? By social mobility is meant any transition from one social position to another. So, change in social position involves generally significant change in life chances and lifestyles. The concept of social mobility is classically defined by Ep13 A. Sokuraki. According to him, the shift of position may be undertaken by an individual or social object or value. Anything that has been created or modified by human activity can experience social mobility. The importance of social mobility as a concept in sociology is obvious. So, any change of position in society experienced by an individual or a group has its impact not only on the individual or the group, but also on the society at large. So, implicit in invoking the concept of social mobility is the recognition of gradation in a society. The gradation is normally done in terms of power, prestige and privileges. A hierarchical structure then operates in such societies. This opens up the possibility of sociological investigation of whether or how an individual or a group gain or loses power, prestige and privileges in a society. In other words, along the line of hierarchy, whether one moves up or falls down signifies change of social position, that is social mobility. Time taken to effect the change of social position may vary from society to society, and the dimensions of social mobility are many. Sociology of social mobility is rife with the contributions of various scholars who have theorized on the concept based on their respective field studies and data collected thereby. So, it is obvious that a change of position may take place either along a horizontal axis or a vertical axis. So, the shift of social position can also be analytically understood in terms of two basic, that is horizontal mobility and vertical mobility. Now, what is the origin of the social mobility concept and how it has originated? Russian born American sociologist and political activist Ep13 Sokuraki first introduced the concept of social mobility in his book called as social and cultural mobility. He states that there is no society that is completely open, such as a class system, and no society that is completely closed, like the caste system in India. So, according to Soroki, no two societies are the same in terms of movement allowed and discouraged, and that the speed of social mobility can change from one time period to the next. So, it depends on how developed the society is. So, such a societal shift can happen over time as individuals move from one position to another due to various social interactions. Mobility, more or less, provides people with benefits as they are motivated by different factors in society and work to research or reach new roles that offer them a better standard of living and greater rewards. So, people compete and cooperate with others in society to move up the social mobility ladder. Hope you understood the concepts of social stratification and social mobility. Now, we will try to understand the relationship between social stratification and social mobility. Social mobility's nature, form, intensity and size are determined by the nature and types of social stratification. The two basic types of social stratification are class and caste. In both regimes, the same opportunities for social mobility are not available, because the criteria that define an individual's standing in both societies are vastly different. The nature and degree of social mobility are intimately connected to the manner in which individuals earn their status. In the caste system, a person's status is determined by their birth date and cannot be changed. For example, a Harijan or Dalit cannot attain the status of a Vakaliga or Lingayat or a Brahmin in the caste hierarchy. Similarly, a Brahmin who is born as a Brahmin would die as a Brahmin. So, caste status cannot be changed. Hence, the caste as a form of social stratification does not facilitate vertical social mobility. It is for this reason the caste system is called a closed system, and the caste ridden society are the immobile society. So, the opportunities for social mobility are available under a class structure. The status of the individual is primarily determined by their talents, intelligence, wealth and accomplishments. So, the individual efforts are required to achieve the status which is not bestowed by birth. A laborer, for example, may become the owner of a factory, a salesman for a business house, the owner of a business firm and so on. And as a result of his tireless efforts and struggles, in the class system, there is room for improvement in terms of social status. And as a result, the class system is referred to as open system, and the open class society is referred to as a mobile society. So, individuals may discover better chances for their manifestation of their abilities and talents as society gets more complicated and the lives of its members improve. However, in no community can all deserving persons acquire legislation that reflect their preferences, desires and expectations. Only in an ideal society, as Soroki points out in his social mobility, do all persons receive work and position based on their abilities. At the same time, it is impossible to force people to stay in their current state when they occupy or assume it without departing from it or altering it in any way. For example, even in the so-called immobile society like India, though a Harijan cannot change his caste status, he can change his educational, economic, employment and political status. In this sense, there are no completely open and mobile societies and completely closed and immobile societies. Now, what is open and closed societies? Open societies are based on achieved statuses. So, the societies or social stratification system are described as open or closed in a relatively rather than absolute sense. A truly open society which only exists in theory would allow all people to achieve the status that best fit their natural gifts, abilities, inclinations and training. The statuses are achieved in this case because people earn them through hard work or competition. In modern civilization, the majority of occupational jobs are acquired statuses because there would still be inequality resulting from unequally obtained social positions. An open society would not be a society of equals. These social positions, on the other hand, would be earned purely by personal achievement and merit. And the closed societies are based on ascribed status. So, entirely closed civilizations would never exist, just as completely open societies would never exist. A closed society is one in which everyone is given a status at birth or at a given period of time in life that cannot be modified for the better or for the worse. So, ascribed statuses are a type of ascribed status. Parentage or offspring inheriting their parents' social standing is the most common stance for the ascribed status. However, different elements like human characteristics like political and economic conditions so on may impact such statuses from time to time. In a completely closed societies, no individual deed, no exceptional merit and no well-known wrongdoing could change one's assigned status. In reality, all communities fall somewhere between these two extremes of open and closed with varied proportions of both achieved and ascribed statuses. In this regard, India is a good example. For a long time, even up to the first half of the 20th century, caste-based Indian society was seen as a rigorously stratified and relatively restricted. Nonetheless, the caste-ridden system provided some opportunities for social mobility. Talented people may marry into a higher caste or gain scholarship, education and a better job from members of a higher caste. These people and their children would eventually be able to advance up the caste ladder. To sum up, social stratification is a system of differential ranking based on people's social, economic and political characteristics. Any stratification system is made up of commonly assigned meanings as well as socially specified criteria and prescriptions. The establishment and preservation of the stratification system are aided by the rules and punishments. Due to its strong ties to social, cultural, religious, educational, economic and political institutions, the latter has a variety of ramifications both as an effector and as a target. And the social mobility refers to the movement of individuals or groups in social positions over time. Most typically, social mobility refers to a change in an individual's or family's wealth and social position. Changes in health status, literacy rate, education or other characteristics among groups such as classes, ethnic groups or countries may also be referred to social mobility.